Things for your child may be expensive, but you may be being overcharged. Find out on today's episode of Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. Pregnancy, wedding, and baby. These are the three most expensive words in the English dictionary. I shit you not. Simply adding one of those words to the beginning of a product or service is just asking for an incredibly expensive undertaking. Today I'm going to talk about some of the ridiculous things that you have to purchase as a new father, and I'm going to try and not discourage you from becoming a new father based on the price tags attached to some of these items. I guess first and foremost, that's the stuff you actually need is a stroller and a car seat. And my God, there's a stroller market, a stroller and a car seat market out there. There's like expos about the new stroller and the new car seat. We got this. We're the best of the best of the best. And I'm like, well, damn. I kind of remember having just that little piece of fabric between two pieces of plastic on four wheels when I was a kid. Well, maybe that was a little bit before my time. I'm pretty sure we had something similar to that, but good Lord, I cannot begin to tell you how happy I am that some generous people got some of these things for us off of our registry. I think some of the price tags on the high-end strollers are like $2,000 or $3,000 for this. Wow, it can do everything, except for you still have to push it and you still have to collapse it into your car. But yeah, it can do everything, like being a receptacle that you use to move your child from one place to another. Now, some of these strollers that are out there, you have a lift-away option where you bring the frame down, you lift it away, and then you put it into the car seat, and that's your jam, which is pretty useful. We don't have one of those. We have, like, I don't even know what the brand of our stroller is, but it's a fancy one. But it is a really cool collapsible one that just fits in my wife's very small car. It just takes up the whole trunk space. It was probably one of the better purchases that were made because it's actually very light. It moves fairly well, and I will get the information about that. The brand is called Nuna. It's a very nice brand. We got a Nuna car seat, and we got a Nuna bassinet attachment for the stroller, and then we have the Nuna stroller. And this is the brand new 2019 edition, because it's like cars. These things are legitimately priced and made like cars. But this is a really good one, so I will give you that this is a very important buy for one, since you will be using this a lot, and it definitely needs to be convenient, and whereas this one actually does collapse very, well, small as it can be, and it goes right into the back of my wife's car, which I was a little scared about. I will offer up a warning for those of you who are planning on having the infant car seat. It comes with an insert that makes it supposedly the right size for an infant. We get our lovely newborn Penelope Grace into the car after a long stay, which I gisted for you in the last bit of a podcast the other day, but we put her in and it looked like with the newborn insert. Now, we had taken the time, put everything in the right way and had it all ready to go for her, but when she was in it, she looked like she was really pushed. It was like she was too big. She was big. She was 8 pounds, 14 ounces when she was born. And she was 21, 22 inches because she had a pointy head, which has gone back, by the way. She doesn't have a pointy head anymore, just to clarify for those of you out there. But she really didn't fit with the newborn insert. But then we took out the newborn insert, and she was too small for the other part of the car seat. And really, we kind of hobbled our way home off the freeway, and we kind of reserved ourselves to saying, well, I guess we won't use the car seat until she's big enough to fit in it, which is not feasible. You'll be using the car seat. all the time. So you really can't play the I'm going to wait until they grow into it game, which is actually the opposite of a lot of what I'm going to talk about, because your kid's going to grow out of stuff so fast, it's really not necessary to get it for them, but I'll get to that in a minute. If you do get a car seat for infants, it's hard. It's hit or miss. If your kid's too big, then you've wasted a little bit of money for the infant because they might fit right into the regular side. But in our situation, it was like the opposite of Goldilocks. Like, she was too big for the infant car seat and too small for the regular car seat without the infant insert. So just be aware that that's a huge possibility. There's no one size fits all for this kind of stuff. You just need to be prepared for what happens when it happens. But that's the car seat and the stroller. Those are things you need. They're definitely things you can't live without, unfortunately. So I really can't complain about the price. I think it's a little much, and I get it. They are pandering to a very specific market and a very specific type of people. You know, new parents who have nothing else to do but spend all their money on things. But notwithstanding, those are things that, yes, you do actually need. So I really can't complain too much about those. And we really do like our Nuna stuff, so go for it. I'm not sponsored by them. Again, I'll take it. You want to start sponsoring us? Feel free. Fucking Nuna's the best. Hooray. But, you know, that's what we have. We enjoy it. What I really want to complain about price-wise and design-wise are some of the toys and accessories that aren't exactly necessary. And I do have a few things that I swear by that really aren't that goddamn expensive. So I'm going to get into that today. I guess first and foremost, one of the things that I think that people spend way too much money on are swaddles. Realistically, a swaddle is a very small piece of fabric that you use to tightly wrap your child so that they can sleep better. As I said last episode, steal as many of those things as you can from the hospital, because they legitimately, the hospital ones I still use, we've had our kid for almost 5 weeks now, and I just will swear by just really low-key fabric dollar store swaddles, if you can find them, honestly, because they have been lifesavers for us. But in the swaddle category, I will definitely say there is something called the Halo Sleep Sack. It's like $20 or $30, so it's expensive, I guess. Well, for a piece of fabric, yes, but it's pretty good because it uses Velcro, so it's kind of like dummy-proof. If you didn't learn how to swaddle perfectly at the hospital like I did, then this is probably the thing you'll want to use. So Halo Sleep Sack is my, if you feel like getting a little bit of the upper end, the upper echelon of swaddles, let's go for it. But again, swaddles are cheap. They're used not for very long. They do help with colic, but it's definitely not something you should have a huge investment in. Another thing on the same line of swaddles, something that you don't use for very long, and it's going to sound weird, but you'll probably understand if you are a dad, and you'll definitely understand it just economically if you're anyone who has kids. Clothes. You are not buying infant clothes or baby clothes for the baby. Let's be real, people. Dial down your own personal idea of what you want your kid to look like. Your kid doesn't give a shit about what they are dressed in as long as it's comfortable. Now, they do say different fabrics are supposed to be introduced for sensory reasons, but that's not a reason to go out and buy a hashtag Throwback Thursday shirt that has a picture of an ultrasound on it. I bought that for my daughter just the other day. I can be hypocritical, all right? I can. I'm allowed to be. But in general, we bought a bunch of clothes for this girl. She spends most of her time in these sleepers, which are real quick zip-up guys, or plain white onesies. Invest highly in the onesies, sleepers, anything that's comfy fabric. Don't go too heavy into the jean denim fabric or anything like heavy, thick cotton. Even still, you really shouldn't go overboard on any kind of clothes. You are going to grow out of these so quickly. Your baby, not you, but it's ridiculous. And it just ends up being a waste. And some of these fucking clothes are super expensive for being able to use them maybe once, twice. But I do like some of the outfits. But I mean, when she's older and she can walk around and enjoy the outfit, it just don't fool yourself into thinking it's for your kid. It's 100% for you. Moving on to some of the things that I think are entirely ungoddamn necessary. If any of you out there have bought a DockATot you have spent too much goddamn money on what is essentially a pool noodle that you can buy at a 99-cent store covered in a fabric blanket. And if you think I'm wrong, you either haven't looked at a DockATot or you just don't understand how things are built. This thing's almost $200. And the pool noodle is very inexpensive and the fabric is very expensive. I will make up my own DockATot. So if you want, you can email me at shitsandgigs42@gmail.com. I am creating the device called the Maca DockATot, and it's going to be for $5. I'll send it to you. Go for it. This is one of those things that's pandering to people who are like, I need to have the best of the best for my kid. And this is the number one top rated thing that I can get. And it's essentially something that your infant, it's not something you use for a very long time, sits in, and they can't roll to the left, they can't roll to the right, they can't fall off. But it's specifically not intended to be used in bassinets. And it's definitely not meant to be co-sleeping with. So it's just the same as our Boppy pillow, which, by the way, I swear by these fucking Boppy pillows. They are $35, the ballpark of $35 each. We have 2 of them. Our daughter loves them. She's so comfy in them. It's not a flat surface. She slightly has her head elevated and her feet kicked out, and she just enjoys the shit out of this thing. $35. It's machine washable. You toss it in the washing machine and a dryer, and it dries well. It doesn't get all lumpy like some of these things do when you wash them. We've washed each of them more than a couple times at this point, and they've come out the same way without any issues whatsoever. So highly recommend the Boppy pillows. They come in many different styles. And this is the one, there is one that they actually recommend for breastfeeding we never used, but this is the one that has the insert in the middle. It's part of it, so they kind of sit on it, they rest on it like a pool tube, but it's nice. They're very, very useful. The next thing that you're paying too much money for, if you're buying them, pacifiers are amazing. They're very helpful. I understand there's different schools of thought on the subject, but they've been very, very helpful for us to calm our daughter down. But as with anything that is inexpensive inherently and useful, there is always an incredibly expensive aftermarket version of that. We swear by it's either Avent or Avent pacifiers. They are super useful. Our daughter loves them. She doesn't like all of them, like the ones that are kind of more of an oblong shape. They're like oval shape. She's not a huge fan of them. These are round. I guess they're more like the nipple on a bottle. But those are great. But what the wonderful people at whatever stupid company came up with, the Wubbanub, which is a stuffed animal attached to a pacifier, and it's pretty much an Avent pacifier, so I've literally looks like the same thing. They do not detach. They are sewn together. You can only clean the pacifier in hot water with some soap, but you cannot rinse or wash or soak the stuffed animal part the same way. It has to be cleaned entirely differently. Plus, they are $15 to $20 each. So when I buy a 2-pack of Avent pacifiers at Bye Bye Baby or wherever I get them, they're like $4, and we have like 30 of them. We have 2 Wubbanubs that I only opened one to see how we would clean it. It was ridiculous. We haven't opened them. We've never used them. We do not plan to. Do not waste your money on what looks to be like, oh, that's such a great idea, a stuffed animal on top of a pacifier. But now think about the fact that your pacifier, which is being held in there by your child's own mouth, is now being weighed down by the weight of a small stuffed animal, and that just doesn't really mesh well together, aside from the fact that cleaning it is nearly impossible, which I know, this is my opinion. It is not the opinion of anyone who's trying to sell you a product or anything. I just think these things are ridiculously stupid. You don't have to listen to me, but they are nonsense products created for people who want to make money, and really it's definitely something that has made some asshole a whole lot of money, but you will not be getting any more of our money, sir. Luckily we were gifted the 2 that we had. Moving on to some of the more high-tech gadgets that I think are a little bit overpriced and not necessarily necessary. We had originally bought a Rock and Play, but there was a recall on those, so we ended up having to use the Mamaroo, which we were luckily gifted, and we have used it maybe a handful of times. She's enjoyed it. Well, I guess as much as enjoy means she's peacefully slept in it a few times, and it kind of does different motions. Like one can mimic the car. It moves, so it's on a base. It'll slide left to right and go up and down, which is a pretty neat feature. But honestly, for the most part, it actually just sits in the corner of our living room because where she doesn't seem to like it right now. I'm hoping later in time she will, but it's a fairly expensive piece of equipment. And right now, I'm not getting my money's worth out of it for goddamn sure. But again, it's always nice to have these things. Better to have and not need than need and not have. You're coming with my perspective here of living in a small apartment with not a lot of storage space. So I'm actually better to get when needed than not ever need it and just stick it in the closet. But the Mamaroo is a very sturdy, well-made product. I think that, again, all these things are overpriced because you only can use them for a certain amount of time before your kid is walking, running around, and they can't fit or use any of these things anymore. So at your own risk, make sure you purchase these items and just know that much like your child's infanthood, it does not last forever. My last general bit of irritation with expensive stuff for my current area where we're at with our daughter is the word baby, toddler, infant. You really do look at the ingredients when you're buying something, because oftentimes when you're paying more money because the word baby's on the title of whatever it is, we have like baby OxyClean, baby this, baby that, safe for babies. You are literally getting the same product, but the word baby is costing you a lot more money. Not a lot of people care to really think about this, but if you go and look at the side-by-side comparison of one product versus the other one, just because the word baby's on there, the ingredients are exactly the same. Do not be fooled by some of these companies. I'm not going to throw anyone specifically under the bus. Do your own research. Just make sure that you are getting the best product for your kid. Reviews are very helpful. Always take a quick look at the one-star reviews when it comes to like toy products, because those are usually the more honest ones. But when it comes to actual helpful like bathing products and stuff like that, it's kind of just don't forget that these things wouldn't be on the market. Most of them wouldn't be on the market if there was a huge issue, especially the ones that have been around for years. And all of a sudden someone will tell you that, oh, we can't use that because my kid might someday eventually have an allergy to some random thing that this is about. It's all about what you feel comfortable with. If you ask your parents about what they used on you, every single time they're like, oh, we just threw you in the washing machine. Like, legitimately, they'd be like, oh, we tossed you off into the river and said, come back after dark. It may not have been the safest time to live, but it definitely was. People haven't changed. Human beings haven't changed that much where they needed so much more extra effort and care. Just love your kid, clean them when they're stinky, and make sure they use not anything too chemically when you're cleaning them. But again, don't be fooled by the word baby. Don't be fooled by the word infant or toddler. Sometimes there is a huge difference, but a lot of the times, put them right there side by side. You were looking at the same exact fucking thing with the word baby, which is, again, an expensive word, just like wedding and pregnancy. It's expensive. So be careful when you're buying products out there. And lastly, I guess I'll catch you up on where we are with my lovely daughter Penelope as of the recording of this podcast, which I don't know if anyone realized, but at one point I was talking and then 4 days later I've come back to finish it. So here we are. I am at the stage where I just can't put my daughter down. She is the most adorable thing in the world. She is the squishiest squish that ever did squish. You can ask my wife, my amazing wife. But I just love holding my daughter, and as I told you, I'm going back to work, so every second with her counts for me at this point. It is just my favorite thing to do is come home from work and snuggle. I do not mind feeding. I love getting up in the middle of the night. I guess I'll take that with a grain of salt. I love getting up in the middle of the night to feed her because of that connection it is to share with her, like change her diaper, give her a bottle, and it's just her and I. I just was speaking to my uncle yesterday about this, and he said that these are the moments you never get back. It's literally the best feeling in the world knowing that she needs you, and it's all that you can do to be there for her, and there's that just huge connection. So that's where I'm at. Developmentally, Penelope's, again, she's looking more at things, she's recognizing things, she's enjoying tummy time a lot more, lots of fist bumps like a champ. She definitely is getting a little grumpier, I think, because she's starting to get a little more into her own skin. But yeah, that's about it for where she is. I want to give a recommendation. Me and my wife just binge watched a show on Netflix that we just came across called The Letdown. It's an Australian television show about parenting. It's hilarious and oddly close to what we go through on a daily basis. So if you haven't watched it, I suggest it. It's very funny. It's incredibly relatable to new and old parents alike, for sure. But it's just weird that I'm looking at this show now as I would have found it with entertainment value before, because it's just generally funny. I'm now looking at it being like, oh, these are some tips I might want to take for my actual progress through parenthood. And so, it kind of gives you some of the frustration you have to deal with, like I do with some of the stuff I've dealt with Penny. But it's a good show, so check it out. It's called The Letdown. There's 2 seasons on Netflix, and we just finished it today. So again, highly recommended. But I gotta wrap up. My baby's crying and my wife needs a break, so I cannot stay here with you any longer. I'll be back soon with a new episode. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Shits and Gigs 2Gs42, Shits and Gigs 42. You can email me at shitsandgigs42@gmail.com. There will be a website coming soon. And as always, my kid is better than your kid, and vaccinate your kids or keep them the hell away from mine. I'm Matt Howes, and this has been Shits and Giggles.